retail products and building a lasting brand. And I have a wonderful friend and longtime colleague to interview today. So, do you know what your brand is all about? Are you thinking of creating a brand or rebranding your practice? Maybe it's important today that you listen and have your staff listen in, and you will be getting a link if you do miss this, and you can share it. But it's important today that you understand that coming up this year, it is the bold brand extension year. And we're going to talk about brand extension. This is actually part one of a semi-series that we just decided. But improving your brand to drive sustainable growth is really what you should be thinking about now. COVID is almost over, at least we're hoping so. And you want to invest in your brand and your business today. And you have the top experts here with over 60, maybe 70 years. I don't know. I guess I don't look that bad, but in combined together. Yeah. So we're talking about brand development, whether you're in the early stages of your brand positioning or you're expanding, we're here to work with you. We have a process, we have a discovery session, and we'll be talking about differentiating your brand and your business. So I will now introduce, well, before that, I guess we're going to stay until the end. So you could ask us any questions you have, and if not, we can always answer them at any time. And we have all kind of specials for you today if you stay on. So don't forget to complete the post-event survey. Go on to beautifulforever.com. There's lots of great educational information for you, past webinars, articles that have been published every week and every month in all of the trade publications. And we look forward to all of your questions and to be able to help you be successful this year. So joining me today, I have Glyn Eppy. She's an award-winning designer and co-owner of the Design Spot. Glyn and I go back, I don't know, probably 20 years or more. And in working together almost every day, we now have become very good friends. She's the founder and creative thinker, which she definitely is, behind the Design Spot. And there's multi-award-winning brands and designs as part of her agency in New York City for the past 30 years. And they specialize in the beauty business, as we do in aesthetics and wellness and anti-aging. It all pulls together under the beauty business, cash business. So we understand the language of skincare and ingredients and aesthetics, and working directly with some of the top laboratories, working on R&D, design and development, and putting together merchandising and products and displays. So it's a great collaboration, and you're lucky today that, you know, we're able to pull this together for you, and hopefully we'll have more after this. We're going to come up with another date this week, and the creative designs and logos and brandings and concepts are all we're going to talk about, and it should be its own program, actually. So I want to invite Glyn, our designer and head of our design team, to share lots of pearls with you today. Hi, Glyn.
Hi, Cheryl. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited you're here too. So, you know, when we talk to all of our clients, we talk about points of difference and something that makes them unique. So on the right part of the screen, everybody could see brands that we've created, and there's a lot more that, you know, you've created besides these, but it's a good representation of what we've created, and hero products, over the counter, as well as prescription strength, whether it's a spa, medspa, practice. So tell us a little bit about the point of difference and that what makes somebody's practice and products unique.
I mean, that's a great question. And I think there's a lot of different answers for that. So some of it stems from things that the doctor might already be doing in the practice, special ingredients that they use, certain protocols that they use. And basically what we do is we start our project by sort of honing in on some of the things that they do. In a lot of cases, they don't even realize that they have some interesting points that would help in creating a brand. And we sort of pull all of that out of them and then put it back together and then come up with an idea, a concept, and eventually a design and then a brand. But it really starts with coming up with something unique about them that we can build into a story.
No, and the story has to be there to be able to create that niche market. And there is a lot of revenue to be generated once the story and the products are created. So there's a little bit of work that goes into the beginning, but then from there, you're staying consistent with your brand. You can have brand extensions, and you're building and maintaining a brand and a brand experience. So
Right.
in maintaining a successful brand experience, there's so many things that go into that I know you have a lot to say about it. So I'll give you the floor.
I think the one thing I want to kind of start out with is that I want to try to clarify, at least from my perspective, what is branding? Because I think there's a lot of confusion about that. And I think a lot of people also get confused between branding and a brand. And so branding, as the word sounds, is actually based on farmers when they used to brand their cattle. And that's where that expression
That's
comes from.
mhm.
And so in that sense, most people then correlate the word branding to a logo. But branding is not a logo at all. Branding is really creating a feeling, building trust, and creating a background, a story involving your core values and principles, and pulling all that together. And then we build a brand based on that. And this is really, in essence, a subliminal thing to someone. They don't even really know why they buy a brand, but they know they like the brand. And
And
then
yeah, it's
and
true.
the brand is actually more in turn in keeping with the product side.
So when we talk about delivering your promise and providing your value, it's in your product, but it's also in the way that you run your practice or your med spa. It all really goes together. You have to
Very much,
provide that whole experience, the whole
very much
patient
so.
experience.
I mean, the experience is really what's in essence, the foundation of the brand. What does that mean? If you asked a couple of different people, maybe, in your business, what is our brand? Who are we? They might not even know the answer. That should be very clear. So if you're a place that's all about healthy vegetables and, growing organic things, but your store is bright red, that's not the right feeling for that. That doesn't make sense. So it doesn't really let someone understand the brand experience. They're expecting something much more organic and green and fresh. So I think it's important that your brand, whatever you want to portray, comes across. And it doesn't have to be, in packaging. It has to be, it could be the architecture, it could be your business card. Why doesn't your business card represent what you look like?
Yeah, and it's the same thing with your staff representing what you look like and what they
Oh,
wear and what the atmosphere looks like. I mean, everything needs to be branded to your point to create that successful branded experience. So there's a lot of value put into your brand and your promise, and you have to stand behind that and maintain it.
constantly.
You and I have both been in business well over 30 years, and we provided that level that we've never let, we are above the bar all the time. We maintain our brands daily. And I think that's something that we really need to educate the med spas and the practices and the businesses on a day-to-day basis on phone calls that we both get. And you and I, talk every day about how people really don't know how to maintain a brand. Maybe it's time that they rebrand. We often go onto somebody's website
Yep.
or we see their products and we say, oh boy, they've been doing this for 25 years and it looks it. It needs refreshing, updating. It needs to be rebranded. And that's where we come in. Sometimes, the providers get it and sometimes they don't, you
Right.
know, and we both come across that, every day, depending on who. This goes across all boundaries, though. There is no boundary here, whether it's a physician, a med spa, it could be a deli or a candy store. It is consistent with what goes on to maintain your brand on a daily basis. And I'm sure you have comments on that.
No, very much so. And, I think sometimes it's hard to kind of like take a look at yourself in essence in the mirror, and it could be yourself, but in this case it's a business, and say, that looks tired, that paint is chipped, maybe this could look better, we bought these things on sale, we didn't take our Christmas decorations down. You don't really realize the impact that these type of things have on your brand. If especially in the aesthetic world, if you're trying to sell, beauty and you want people to look better, come in, get refreshed, get a facelift, yet everything in your place looks stale or old or dated or broken, that's not the right impression for the brand that you're trying to sell.
Yeah, I mean, it's true because you have to create and build a brand and you have to reposition it to stay competitive. And interesting that you say that because here in Florida, half of the practices and half of the offices really don't stand up to what we're used to in New York standards. And it's almost scary what they get away with. And so we need to help to educate, to discover and define what a brand is in the aesthetic and wellness industry, because, med spas need to focus on what it is, where the niches, what's special, what's unique. So there are processes and there are ways that we help them to develop, a new look and a new feel, like you said earlier. But maintaining that brand on a daily basis is important, and everything across the board. And brand extensions have to and a brand extension can be a product. It could be a piece of equipment. It could be something new you're adding to your menu. There's multiple things it could be. We create blueprints for things like that. So whatever you want to do this quarter or this year, and then ongoing, we create these ongoing relationships to help the return on investment and to help to grow your bottom line. But you really need to know your consumer and who your target demographic is to stay in touch with them. And today, with all of what's happening online, and we're Zooming and we're 24/7 world, and we have all different ages, the generations X, Y, Z, and and we have to speak their languages, and so you have to know your consumer. And we often realize that most people don't know who that target demographic is, so they just try to talk to everybody in the same language with the same photos. And you and I agree that that should not be the way. You can't be everything to everybody.
That's a huge mistake.
Right.
That's a huge mistake that people often make, I think to your point, being in touch with who the demographic is one thing, but being in touch with that patient, that consumer is another. And those two things can overlap or they could be separate. But, I think it's like when a cosmetic dermatologist decides to come out with a foot cream. It kind of goes with maybe what they do somehow because it has to do with skin, but that's not really a line extension. That's not a brand extension. That's not the best way to represent, who they are. So I think, it's important to know who your customer is and not just kind of do things flighty. It's important to have a strategy, to have a plan, to have something to go by. And honestly, if you don't have that, how do the people that work with you know what to do?
No, it's true. And it goes back to who is the consumer? What is your message? What's your vision and mission? And that has to be shared with your staff. And there needs to be ongoing meetings. I mean, so everybody is on board and understands the new products, new equipment you've brought in, and what you're promoting. And maybe there needs to be some incentives there so they buy into everything, because we've talked to lots of corporate accounts as well as practices where everybody thinks something different about the vision, the mission, the brand. And to your point before, there needs to be that marketing meetings to discuss this on, even if it's a monthly basis for 15 minutes. I mean, it was one of the reasons I wrote Beautifully Profitable book, is it would be taken into the marketing room when they have a bagel breakfast or pizza lunch, whatever it is, for 15, 20 minutes. And they could talk about, loyalty within their practice. And that brings us to the brand loyalty. The brand loyalty is built in creating a bond and building a relationship with your products, with your services, with your staff. And I know brand loyalty is, very important to us when we're building and creating practices and development, patient loyalty, and products. So give me your thought on the brand loyalty.
I think, again, that's an interesting piece of this, because how can you really create brand loyalty if you have a mixed message within your branding? So that's why it's so important to like stay with the consistency thing. And I think you almost have to have two sort of messages. You need to have one for the internal use, and then you need to have one for the external use. So maybe what you might say to somebody that works for you might not be the exact wording for the message that you want to go out to the public. And so it's important to kind of make sure that that is on track. And then honestly, to gain the consumer loyalty, that consistency keeps coming back. Important to be consistent. Do your products make sense to what you're selling? Does the consumer love the texture? Do they like how the tube functions? These things might sound small and insignificant, but put them all together, and that's where the brand becomes the brand.
And we have perfect examples here on the screen. And now we talk about iconic brands here when we talk about Starbucks and
These
Tiffany.
are some of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love a
The
Tiffany
Tiffany
box?
box is literally probably the most famous branding in the entire universe. And they basically started out using this color based on the time frame, which was in the early to mid 1800s, when turquoise, the stone, was extremely popular. So they said, oh, let's use this color. And they now have the color trademarked. Everybody refers to it as Tiffany blue, although Pantone actually has a color. It's called 1837 blue. And that 1837 refers to the year that Tiffany was founded. And then to further that, Tiffany went on to trademark the tying of their white satin bow. So if you ever go to Tiffany and you buy something, they don't come out with the package. They take the box, they cut the ribbon right in front of you, and they tie the bow. And so in this case, they're also selling an experience with their brand. And it's the simplest of things. I mean, their logo is very simple. It's very classic. It hasn't changed. And you don't even have to read this. You see a blue box and you in your mind say that's Tiffany. So it's an incredible nod to a lasting brand. I mean, it's really incredible. I mean, they even make a charm now of a Tiffany box. So that's how iconic that is. Nike, another amazing example. Their name isn't even here. You just know by seeing this icon, this, swoosh, which there's a whole, story that goes behind that. And really their tagline, just do it. I mean, you see that and you say, that's Nike. You don't have to see a name. And that also sums up, honestly, I think for everybody, that this is an athletic brand. Like, you just know what that is. And then lastly, Starbucks. I mean, another great branding icon. They were in the business of selling coffee. And they decided that they wanted to be much more than that. And they spent a lot of time and a lot of money on creating a logo that didn't shout all the things that they were going to sell. It eliminated the word coffee and their name. I mean, that's creating a lasting brand. That's an iconic brand. I mean, these are like amazing, in essence, success stories. But I mean, these are just a handful of ones that people know.
And they're very recognizable. Everybody who's on today recognizes these. And they might not have recognized them as iconic brands as the way we put it, on this slide, but they are. And
Definitely.
And I think they're really good examples. And I think that people really need to start thinking more about their branding and rebranding and staying up to date. Even though the Tiffany box goes back to the 1800s, we need to keep everything up to date in our industry. And that has no date on it. I mean, it's amazing. So, I guess today's webinar, we do have a handout on physician branded skincare. So if you sign up or you log in at any time, you could download that. What are the key takeaways today, Glenn, that you want to leave everybody with on developing a lasting brand? There's so many things that we're going to cover in future webinars, but for today.
I think, probably the most important thing would just kind of be take a look at what you currently have. Is it cohesive? Does it make sense? Did you wind up, again, leaving Christmas decorations out? Like, refresh, especially now. It's a new year. We've just gotten out of like a strange year. We're all looking towards the future and, a lot of newness. So like, it's a perfect time right now. Like, take a look around. Like, if you are physically in your space, how does it look? If you're starting to represent yourself more, online, then how does that look? Is that a representation of your physical place? Or did you decide to go in a completely different direction? So I think really the key takeaway is, take a look, refresh yourself, but honestly, most importantly, stay consistent.
And I think that's great. And they could push the reset button and call us. We'll analyze and we'll look at their brand as we do every day. We'll look at their website. We'll look at their social media, their presence, their logo, their whole branding, to be able to analyze and develop with them together about building or refreshing. Sometimes it just takes a little bit to refresh, and sometimes we need a redo. So we come across all of those on a daily basis. And whether it is your practice or whether it's your product or whatever brand extension you have, and we have some great ideas. We are up to date on what is going on throughout the industry. And we would love to be able to hear from you. And if you are interested in a branded skincare line, that's one of the expertise that you're talking to us about today. And we'd love to talk to you about how you can make a lot of money if you do it right, not just stick a label on a jar, which some of the companies offer. We do a lot more for you, and it doesn't have to cost a lot. There's no real big minimums. And I think in our next, on our next chat, we will be talking about, products and different levels of ways that you can get into private label and branded products and building your brand along with these brand extensions to bring in revenue. And I think to prepare yourself for, the next quarters coming up, when people are coming out of COVID, which, should be by then. And you should be prepared, not wait for the rush to come in, but now is like a perfect time to repair and to get things organized, reorganized, and get your staff on board, which we can help you in combination to do. And so your brand, the key to practice growth. And we've been saying that, but we have some valuable assets in the Beautifully Profitable book in its 6th edition. And we do offer for our attendees 50% off discount for the resource guide, the ebook, so you could download it immediately. You don't have to wait. And we do complimentary sessions where we talk about expanding your profit centers and your branding. And we'd be happy to do that. I know questions are coming in. We're running out of time, but we will make sure that we answer the questions for you. We did want to tell you a little bit about what is up and coming as well. We're very excited. We're going to have a lawyer talking about facing medical practices today on social media, as well as famous Dr. Goldberg. Very excited that he accepted our invitation to be part of our Hot Topics in Dermatology, as well as Hot Topics in Plastic Surgery with Gregory Buford. And Shino Bay and Jake Campbell are one of my favorite local Fort Lauderdale doctors and office managers. So we're going to hear an office manager's point of view. And we have a great lineup coming up of many practices and offices and great information. Beautiful Forever University is about educating you. We want to hear from you if there's a topic that you want to hear. If you feel that you want to be interviewed and you pass our branded test, we would be happy to talk to you as well. And we have some people in mind that we've actually been working with lately that we're thinking about maybe putting on air and interviewing them about how the processes went so smoothly, how happy they are, and how we were able to make them a lot of money. So we look forward to hearing from you. And I'll see you at our next talk, which is right now on the 28th at 3 o'clock. And don't miss it because Jeffrey Siegel's a great attorney and can answer lots of great questions for you. And thank you, Glyn.
Bye, thanks.
Thank you.